Hello YouTubers. Okay, so at last I'm getting around to the review of this Fluke 381 clamp meter. It feels like a very nice little beastie. It has to be said, good quality feel of the surround casing or what have you. So we'll put it on the bench and have a close look at what it can do. Before we get stuck into this review, I'd just like to thank Comptest, who are the distributors for Fluke in Southern Africa. They loaned this unit to me, so I really do appreciate it. Okay, so as I said initially, certainly the feel of this Fluke 381 clamp meter with its remote display, it feels really nice and solid in the hand. The plastics again on the back and what have you are nice and solid and got a good feel to them. The yellow housing is rubberized and has got a nice feel. The selector switch it's kind of a mix of plastic. It's actually rubberized, which makes it very easy to switch on and select with a single hand, which is really handy. It's then obviously got the opening clamp to put round conductors, and then obviously it's a part trick, as I say, whether for convenience or for safety reasons, this remote detachable display, which actually it's magnetic, so you can clip it onto a DB board or somewhere safe if you want for viewing. The items that it comes with, I'll just show you. It comes in a soft Fluke carry case, which is nice and adequate. Its other big selling point is the kind of iFlex current cable that it comes with. It's certainly, again, it's got a good feel. The actual flexible current clamp probe around here feels like it's made out of silicone. It feels very good, very robust construction here, very simple locking mechanism to put it round conductors, which we'll test a little later. The cable again it's got a very good insulator on it, and it's got a proprietary plug on the bottom. So that's where Fluke have been clever. They want to make sure that you're only going to use their flexible clamp with their meter, and as such in the bottom it has a proprietary plug. But down here you can see you can still plug in a normal set of test leads, which I'll show you right now, but then, as I say, it's got this proprietary plug, so you can only use their iFlex clamp. The leads that come with it, again, nice silicone. The model of these are the TL75 Fluke leads, if I'm correct. It says TP74 on these. You get literally, the cables are very long. They're certainly over a meter long, which is handy because if you got the clamp meter lying down near a DB board, you're going to need that kind of length. The banana plugs or jacks have got the strain relief at the ends, so you're not going to break off the leads very easily. The cable, these are rated for 600 volts Cat 3, and Cat 4 rating is up to, or I should say it's the other way around, it's Cat 3 to 1000 volts and Cat 4 to 600 volts. We'll just check. I'm not sure if you can see that on the actual leads themselves, but it does certainly specify what their safety rating is. The leads also very clever. They've got these covers. You'll have seen with the other the TL175s have got the kind of retractable sheath. These have just got a cap that you pull off, which obviously could get lost, so that's one item which could go astray, but still it's sensible to have if you're working in a high voltage area, because then you've only got the first few millimeter of the tip exposed. Far safer to use that way when you're measuring. And as you can see, they're a little bit different to normal voltage probes or what have you is they've got this kind of banana, so you can literally stick it into a plug point or what have you, or I presume you could put an accessory on there and it'll clip on there. The other point to note with these leads is that they disconnect, so the actual front probes come off. So these leads are kind of multi-purpose. You can put on other accessories, and you'd have to double check. By default, I don't get these are an additional accessory. You'd have to double check what comes in your pack. These crocodile clips, which are rated, they've also got a safety rating on them, 1000 volt Cat 3, and then obviously they just clip into there. And again, that's really handy because ultimately the majority of the work that's going to be done with a clamp meter like this, if you're measuring voltage, is probably in a DB board or something like that, and there you're going to want to clip onto your contacts where you're measuring your voltage. You're not going to be holding a set of probes, so they give you that flexibility where you can easily plug in an accessory like that, which is brilliant. Right, let's have a closer look at its operation. Okay, so we're just about to have a quick look at how its kind of accuracy and resolution on DC voltage. Just another point to make though, the prime feature of this is obviously the clamp to measure current, and for that this clamp can measure up to 1000 amps AC or DC, and then the flexible iFlex clamp can go to 2500 amps. Now obviously the accuracy and resolution are very different to a multimeter that's designed for use with electronics. This, as you can see, will go down to 1/10 of a volt. So it's 1 decimal place, and then on DC accuracy it's only 1% plus 5 digits. But of course this device isn't designed for electronics, it's designed for high voltages, high currents, and so that resolution and accuracy is more than sufficient for its purpose. So again, that's where you just need to understand what your application is, and certainly then the accuracy and resolution that it has fits its application. In fact, this Fluke did win some prize in 2010 in terms of a tool for kind of big production or environments. So it certainly has obviously impressed a number of folk. But anyway, I've got it connected up now. We'll just have a quick comparison with the Fluke 115 to see that it can stay there. I've got it plugged into my variable power supply, and I'm going to just go up. There you go, it's showing the 4.2. It's obviously slightly out in comparison to the 115, but then as I said again, for its spec, it'll be within its spec for its application. We'll go all the way up, and you can actually see its update speed is more than sufficient. From the outside here, and I'll give you a little, try and get you closer in of the display now. As it changes, and you can actually see it's a very nice clear display. And again, the update speed for its application I think is more than sufficient. Okay, so let's have a quick look at the features which are on this Fluke clamp meter. As I said, a nice easy dial for selecting what measurement range you want to measure. It's obviously got the off, it's then got AC volts, DC volts, resistance and continuity. It's then got AC amps, and by default that measurement you'll see on the display that means the claw clamp on the meter is the one that's being used for that measurement. It's then got a secondary function of measuring hertz, which you do with this button, which brings up the secondary feature, or zeros the meter. So if we push that, we can see it goes to hertz or back to the AC amps. We then go to the DC amps, which can measure, and then you go to your iFlex. And when you go to your iFlex, you can see there's a little icon on the screen which shows you basically that you're using the flexible clamp. It also has, and I'll just show you, that warning light you saw, which comes on as you power it on. That warns you if you're using any high voltage at all. It'll actually bring up a little lightning bolt on the display as well. This is a warning to be careful because you potentially are measuring something that's hazardous. The remote display it's got these two little buttons on the side, which you put your fingers around, pull them both off like that, and away it comes. When you actually pull it off, you'll note it's got this little symbol down there which shows the radio is actually transmitting, so it is receiving information from the clamp itself. Then on the display here we've got the backlight, which as you can see works very well. It lights the display up very nicely. It's a nice clear display. We've then got the min, max and average on here again, which is a feature I really like. And then we've got the hold. So that just holds the display if it's jumping around. It's not a touch hold. And a feature like that is something that you probably wouldn't really need on this, but as I said, there's always a trick of using the tip which I show other people in my videos. You can use the min-max to capture if you need to use your probes to capture a reading when you can't see the display itself. The other option to note, which is a very handy one, is this button here which says inrush, which we'll try and test later when we're doing a measurement in the DB board. And that basically over a period of, I think it's either 100 or 200 milliseconds, takes 400 readings. And basically it gives you the peak, it shows you the inrush current into a circuit. And that can be very helpful if you've got a trip switch which is tripping and you don't know why, because when you measure after you switched on a trip switch, the current will obviously be a little bit lower after motors or what have you have started up, and you can actually capture that big rush of current, which can show you why a trip switch might be tripping, and help you spec a larger trip switch for that circuit. So that's certainly one helpful feature which we'll look into a little later. Then on the remote display itself, in total there are 5 AAA batteries which are required. There's 2 for this remote display unit, which obviously just neatly fit in the back there. And then on the unit itself, I think there's another 3. That opens up simply enough, and you've got your 3 AA batteries in there, easily housed away. And obviously you'll note there are no fuses for the current measurement, and that is because obviously it's all done through inductance. There's no direct current flowing through the meter itself, so there's no risk of harming the meter as you would a normal meter when you're measuring current. Okay, so we'll quickly go through a few of its straightforward features before we climb into the DB board. I've got my variable power supply linked up now. If we push the max min button and I start varying the voltage, you'll see it makes a little beeping noise as it's collecting new values. If I turn down at the moment, you'll note on the display it's got the min max and it's got the max, so it's showing you the maximum figure that it's actually picked up. So if we cycle through, it'll show you the minimum, the average, which is obviously something which is going to change over time, and then your live display. So if you keep it on the live display, you can actually see the actual reading that's happening, or then you can cycle through and hold your maximum, your minimum, and your average. And to get out of that, obviously you just hold it down for a second and you're back to your normal working mode. It's obviously then got this hold. So if we put the hold on, I've turned up the voltage, it just holds the display steady. Take it off, and then you're back to your live display again. As I said, if you want that touch hold feature, the easy way to do it is just to use your min-max, leave it on your max setting, and then you can capture a reading without having to see the display. Okay, so now I'm just going to demonstrate a simple DC current measurement with the clamp. I'm using this left-handed, but I mean, there you go, it can still be used left-handed. So that was one too far. I've now gone on to the setting for the actual clamp. You'll see the icon comes up on the screen, and it does, particularly with DC, most clamp meters, you'll get an error reading. You kind of let it settle. If it isn't at 0, you just push the 0 button to actually zero it. You'll see that on the display there's a little flashing dot inside the clamp. If the reading is anything less than, I think, half an amp, it does that. So that means that basically it's not picking up anything. So as soon as we take it down, I'm going to put it on the battery. I'm just about to go switch on a load, which is a headlight. And as you can see, it shows you what we're drawing. So 4.5 amps of a DC load on the battery. And again, the convenient feature here, so obviously this is mainly designed for safety, but I mean, what I can do, if I can do this with my left hand, is pull the display off and take it somewhere convenient to actually remotely measure what's going on. So not just safety, convenience. I can sit up here at the desk with the clamp meter still attached to what I'm measuring down there, and I can see what's going on up here. Okay, so I've still got the headlight switched on, and as you can see, it's drawing 4.2 amps. But now, so I'm going to demonstrate the inrush feature, and this is where it can be really handy. As you can see on this connection to the battery, I've got an inline fuse holder over here where I've got a fuse. Now, often I'll just thumb suck what size fuse I should put in there, which hopefully won't blow when things are switched on. Now, a resistive load like a car headlamp isn't going to have too much of an inrush current, but certainly a motor would do. But nonetheless, it still has an inrush current, so let's see if we can actually capture that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to switch the light off. There we go. Let's just get you in a little bit closer. I'm going to push the inrush, and there you can see it sitting and waiting for a reading. I switch it on, and there you go, hey presto. The inrush current when that light fires up is 8.4 amps. So let's say I thought, okay, 5 amp fuse should do the job because I'm only at 4 point something. Potentially if it was a fast blow fuse, and it might blow. Well, okay, it might be, in that case, the current might not be there long enough, but nonetheless, a very handy feature to help you see how much current you actually have to cater for in either a trip switch or a fuse. And of course, to get out of that mode, all you do is you push the inrush again and you go back to your live reading. Okay, so we're here at my DB board inside the house. So a little warning and caveat to those of you who aren't experienced with working inside DB boards and what have you. And I mean, this even goes to myself. I hate working in DB boards. They can be potentially very dangerous. You've got high voltages here in South Africa. We've got between 220 and 240 volts. It's very easy to touch these screw contacts. which are exposed here at the bottom of the trip switches. So if you are going to work in a DB board, be advised you should know what you're doing, and you should always de-energize it. By de-energizing, you should turn off the main breaker. Be warned that even though the main breaker is switched off, you will still have the incoming contacts, your main feed into your house will still be live. If you touch those, you're still going to get bitten. What I have done in this case, we've got a prepaid meter and that has got a switch on it. So basically, because I've switched off here, I have no current coming in here. So just to be aware of that. Now, as you can see in our DB board, it is a very cramped space. So like for instance, when I've had my Fluke 43B, and that I literally only have a big clamp like this, trying to clamp around, if I'm trying to measure, let's say the power or current coming in through the main over here, it can potentially be very, very challenging. As you can see, you think it can't fit, you potentially start moving and knocking your other wires around, which can be very dangerous. And that's where that iFlex current clamp comes into very, very good use. Okay, so here I've got the clamp in my hand, and I said it's very straightforward. It literally just has this locking screw over here, which you then undo, and then you go and place it in the cupboard itself. So let's have a see if we can do that. So if I'm trying to connect to the main over there, the live coming in, all you have to do is feed the clamp around like that, connect it up, and I might actually have it round the wrong way, we'll see, but as you can see, it's clamped round there, easy enough, straightforward. And now that I've got the clamp securely around that conductor over there, and just a caveat, they do say that basically your most accurate reading is when your conductor is closer to the middle of the circular ring here, but in this case it's not possible and it has to lie there, but then you're going to get a little more of an inaccurate reading. But again, for the size of currents and what have you that this is designed for, that isn't that huge. So we've got our meter, we've got the plug, we plug it in, and for a laugh what I'm going to do, I'm going to flick this up to the flex setting. I'm going to zero it. I'm actually going to put it onto inrush. I'm intrigued to see what the inrush current is as I power up the main circuit to our house. So I've gone, but it's sitting on hertz, my mistake. Okay, so there we go. It's ready on inrush. You can see on the meter it actually notes inrush. I need to switch on our... Now we could be in for a trip here, but we'll see. Bang, you'd have heard everything beep, the alarm and what have you, as everything came back on. And you can see the fridge has just come back on, but we captured an inrush of 32.2. If we now go back, we may even see more. No. There's a total draw of 4.7 amps at obviously 220 volts, but I'll demonstrate the voltage pickup now. And obviously the really handy feature about this, there you go, it's got a magnetic pickup. You can stick it somewhere handy where you can actually go and read it. Okay, so now we want to measure the voltage of our main AC coming into the house. I've gone and popped the probes in underneath. I've got the normal probes attached, but of course they're not going to be much use if I want to stand away and have that measured, so I simply pop them off and then pop on the alligator clips. Nice and easy. I'm then going to obviously select AC volts, which is the first selection. I'll put the meter down. What I'll do, I'll stick that there, Not sure if I'll be able to get that in the shot. We will try. There's a bit of light coming in there, unfortunately. Okay, I've tried to put that on the DB board as best I can so there's not too much glare. But behind that you'll see there is a buzz bar, which is the common for the neutral. So I'm simply going to put the crocodile clip on there, and then I'm just going to select a circuit at random which I want to measure the voltage for. There we go, and if you can't see that, I'll pull it up to the display. It's showing the measurement, 239, 240 volts AC. And what the handy thing here, of course, is we can go min-max, and you can leave it in that setting now and obviously capture if you've got any dips or what have you. You can see the minimum, it beeps every time it picks up, and it's showing you the average, and the average it's saying is almost spot on 240. What's very handy here, if we went back and had the current clamp on, we could get an average of the current being used. So let's do that as a quick exercise. Okay, so I've got the iFlex clamp around the main live feed into the house again. I've got the display stuck on the DB board, and as you can see, the clamp meter is sat there nicely out the way down below. No need to worry about that. And now in this situation, what I'm hoping to demonstrate is obviously at the moment there's 3.8 amps coming into the house. If I go min-max, it'll start recording obviously the maximums and what have you, the min, the average. And what I'm going to go and do is just switch on some circuits to see what effect that has. I'll leave it plonked here while I do that. Okay, so what I've literally gone and done now is switched on a kettle, which you can hear boiling in the background, and it is showing the average going up. That's the live at the moment, which is we're drawing 13.1 amps. That's the maximum was 13.4. The minimum was what we started off, and you can see you're showing the average over time. So that can be very helpful for working out power consumption. The caveat there is that obviously there is power factor to take into account, but you can certainly see what your average current is over time, which can be very, very useful. Okay, so the last bit of functionality I thought we'd check is the resistance measurement and continuity. It has a nice clear latched. If I rub the probes together, it doesn't make a noise. It's not the fastest of continuity testers, but then I suppose for the application that isn't really critical, because it's not going to be used in an electronics environment. I stand to be corrected. Someone might be far more critical about that pickup speed in a kind of more industrial heavy current environment, but certainly a nice clear latching detector. Then I've got a 1K resistor here, and there we go, it's measuring the 1000 ohm, which is correct. Okay, to summarize then, I must say the Fluke 381 with the remote display, it's also a true RMS clamp meter. Very solid feel to it, nice body. The detachable display is great for convenience so that you can get away from where you're measuring. Also as a safety, if you've got a very high energy environment like a high voltage DB board, that means you can de-energize set your flexible current clamp or your volt crocodile clips if you're measuring voltage, set everything up, detach, move far away, re-energize, and take measurements from far away where you're out of harm's way, which is a big feature of this kind of current clamp. It just, it doesn't make sense if you're measuring currents as high as 1,000 or 2,500 amps that you want to be anywhere near. I certainly wouldn't. I'm a sissy in that regard. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed that review. If you do have any comments or queries about this particular meter, then certainly do post them and I'll try and get back to you as soon as possible with an answer. If you do enjoy this series and what's on my channel, then certainly do subscribe. And if you feel that someone else might benefit from seeing this particular video, then do share it on your Twitter and Facebook feeds. Thanks very much for watching. Hello YouTubers. Okay, so at last I'm getting around to the review of this Fluke 381 clamp meter. It feels like a very nice little beastie, it has to be said. Good quality feel of the surround casing or what have you. So we'll put it on the bench and have a close look at what it can do. Before we get stuck into this review, I'd just like to thank Comptest, who are the distributors for Fluke in Southern Africa. They loaned this unit to me, so I really do appreciate it. Okay, so as I said initially, certainly the feel of this Fluke 381 clamp meter with its remote display, it feels really nice and solid in the hand. The plastics again on the back and what have you are nice and solid and got a good feel to them. The yellow housing is rubberized and has got a nice feel. The selector switch it's kind of a mix of plastic. It's actually rubberized, which makes it very easy to switch on and select with a single hand, which is really handy. It's then obviously got the opening clamp to put round conductors, and then obviously it's a part trick, as I say, whether for convenience or for safety reasons, this remote detachable display, which actually it's magnetic, so you can clip it onto a DB board or somewhere safe if you want for viewing. The items that it comes with, I'll just show you. It comes in a soft Fluke carry case, which is nice and adequate. Its other big selling point is the kind of iFlex current cable that it comes with. It's certainly, again, it's got a good feel. The actual flexible current clamp probe around here feels though it's made out of silicone. It feels very good, very robust construction here, a very simple locking mechanism to put it round conductors, which we'll test a little later. The cable again it's got a very good insulator on it, and it's got a proprietary plug on the bottom. So that's where Fluke have been clever. They want to make sure that you're only going to use their flexible clamp with their meter, and as such in the bottom it has a proprietary plug. But down here you can see you can still plug in a normal set of test leads, which I'll show you right now, but then, as I say, it's got this proprietary plug, so you can only use their iFlex clamp. The leads that come with it